Welcome to AI and Automation in Action, where we show business leaders how to turn AI from a buzzword into measurable operational leverage. If you're serious about operational efficiency and responsible AI adoption, you're in the right place.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another edition of AI and Automation in Action, where we go through real world use cases of AI and automation and hopefully spark some ideas for you to put to use in your own operations. And again, we're joined by Hunter. Hunter, thanks for taking the time to hop on with me today. I'm excited to kind of hear what you've been working on. So, if you don't mind, let's talk about what was the problem that we ran into for the client that we were hoping to solve for.
Yep. So we had a client that came to us. They have been using actually the automation platform that we're partners with. They came to us, they've been using this themselves, but they haven't been seeing value, efficiency gain, or an ROI. So that's where they leaned on us. They had identified 4 processes, but wanted to start with their new user onboarding. That's where they were seeing a lot of the noise. Initially, they were wanting to leverage a few systems to integrate, and that's certainly something that's possible, but they wanted their form to live in a external application. And we began walking through that and showing them that that is something that can be done, but it's not the best way that it can be done. And so after we showed them that the automation platform that they are using right now will support dynamic forms. And when I say dynamic forms, that means when they're going to set up a new user in that form, it's going to ask them who is the manager. And they would click that box, and that would pull the managers that are set up in Office 365. So they won't have to type that information in. It's something that could be integrated. Whereas if those forms were living in where they wanted them to initially, where we showed them, if there were any changes in Office 365, they would have to manually upkeep those forms in that separate system. We showed that there's a better way
Gotcha.
to do it in an application that they're already using. And that really helped bridge that gap. And so now we are able to leverage the forms within their automation platform, and that prevents them from having to, you know, do that manual upkeep, but also bring their new user onboarding automation to life and help them see the benefit, ROI, and the efficiency gains. There was a portion of their process that wasn't supported by an integration natively. So we offered to create that integration for them. They wanted to hold off on that for the time being. And instead, since it was such a simple task for that integration, what we are doing is calling that out in the ticket at the end, that it's still a manual action that needs to be taken by the technician.
Gotcha. So I want to step back just a little bit, and I think we're okay sharing this. This client is another MSP business, so a company that takes care of their end users from a technical perspective, and they're leveraging a common automation platform that we build in as well. And I've heard this from multiple other partner MSPs where they see the value of these platforms and what it can enable for their clients and their internal operations. But finding the time, finding the person, and really being able to pour into these platforms has been the limiting factor. We started building on this particular platform about 2.5 years ago. And for us, we made the decision that we were going to dedicate, a person like yourself as our primary person to go build this. But that a lot of MSPs don't have that luxury to say, okay, I'm going to dedicate a single person and make sure that they have the right time, give them focus, process, and tools around that. And so we see that quite a bit. So that was kind of the first pain point, was that they saw that there was an automation potential, invested in the platform, but then ran into that common scenario where, hey, who's going to do this and where does the time come? Am I getting that fairly accurate?
Exactly. Yeah, they had the engineers, technicians in-house, but those technicians and engineers were swamped with the day-to-day stuff when it comes to tickets, projects, whatever they may be dealing with. And so that's where they needed someone like us that they could lean on, pitch those ideas for automation, or lean on us for automations we've already done for other customers. And that's, someone that can help bring those to life, but also train their technicians and engineers if they even wanted to sit in on the call and learn and get knowledge and learn how to do this in-house as well.
Yeah, and again, we've heard this story so many times because I think MSPs in this industry, we understand the technology, we understand the potential that it can bring, but we've still got a business to run, right? We've got clients that are needing support, and while the platform itself, some platforms you can onboard and just be up to speed, fairly quickly. Automation platforms, especially ones that can do the more advanced automations, require additional time, training. And unfortunately, for a lot of MSPs, they end up in the same place where they buy the access to the platform, they have the ideas that they want to put in place, but at the end of the day, they just can't get to it. And I've heard the story of several MSPs that it could be a year, sometimes a year and a half or more, that they're investing in the platform. And then all of a sudden it becomes, well, we're not sure the platform's worth it. And it's not a matter of whether the platform will do what they want, it's their ability to focus on it. And so that's a common limiting factor. Um, okay, so got that background. They were looking at, like you said, 3 to 4 automations, and I'm assuming this is their internal workflow at this point, correct?
So yes, what they've been doing is manually right now having to do all of those actions, but they do have a customer facing form that they're using right now just to get those details that is creating the ticket. So what we're actually doing is replacing their customer facing form, and they're going to be able to, feed that over to the customer. It's going to do everything in the automation, and then for the single task that if it's selected, it would require that manual technician follow up.
Gotcha. And I assume it's like many of our automations that we built, where we start with here's the base level of functionality that we want, and this is something we can continue to stack and build upon.
Correct. Yep. And so whenever they're ready for us to really, what that integration was their phone integration. So if a new user needs an extension set up, that was where that limitation was. But again, they have API support in that application. They just didn't want to use our hours that we had scoped out for the project quite yet until they see the full benefit in those other items. So that's going to be an item that we plan to layer on eventually. It's just going to be, again, some additional time to create that integration and bring that to fruition for them.
Gotcha. So in terms of where we stand today, they have the automation platform, and primarily I hear this use case fairly commonly, that new user onboarding. So the client has a new employee starting, that they need to provision access to their email, to their domain, to their tool sets, to whatever their normal process is. And from what I understand, you were able to at least take the scoped version of that and say, okay, we'll bring that to execution. Have you heard back from them on how that's working thus far?
So right now, not yet. And the only reason being is because we are still actively working through the automation development for some final pieces. In terms of testing, we're waiting on one item for one of the integrations before we can test it for that specific customer. We've been testing it at their parent level and it works, but waiting to make sure it's working at a customer level as well for them. But in terms of an ROI and efficiency gain as well for the new user onboarding, the process for the manual, the recording for the process that they're doing right now, they shared is taking about 15 to 20 minutes on average for each new user. And that includes the manual item as well. So on average, this automation is saving them about, 10, 15 minutes, really leaving them, 3 to 5 minutes of actual manual time needed if a phone extension needs to be set up.
Gotcha. Well, that is great to know. And you pointed out a key concept there, that a lot of times, building the automation is a component that you can certainly work with a partner like Innovative Automations to help deliver, but there are going to still be some tool or some process documentations or connections that the MSP or partner would have to bring to the table during that build process. So it's important to kind of scope that yes, we can build and do what we need to, but a lot of times we're going to have to rely on the client for provisioning access to us and the keys and everything that we need. So that's really the only, I would say, limiting factor that we run into these scenarios is that coordination of getting access to those tools. Well, fantastic. So I guess that the important takeaway from here is that if you're an MSP, or even if you're not an MSP, but you're leveraging an automation platform and paying for that access today, but you're running into the same scenario of we need to bring it to life. Working with Innovative Automations, there's a couple of key benefits. We can help jumpstart that for you, even train your team on what we've built and how we built it and why, and train your end users on how to use it. And we can work alongside you. If your team wants to take it over after the fact, that's part of what we do as well. Or we've got clients that say, you know what, we just want you guys to be that go-to partner because the investment versus the return is exponentially in their favor regardless. So fantastic use case. I appreciate you stepping us through what you've been building. Excited to see the real world results that come from this in our ongoing engagement.
Thanks again for having me, Shane. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Likewise. Thanks, Hunter.
Thanks for tuning in to AI and Automation in Action. If today's conversation sparked ideas about how AI or automation could improve your operations, we'd love to continue that discussion with you. Join us next time as we showcase another real-world implementation and break down how to deploy AI responsibly and effectively. And if you want to brainstorm with our team, email us anytime at ideas@innovativeautomations.ai. Until next time.